So today we're going to be making a paella, and here's one that we made earlier. So this is what your finished product should look like with some, if you're using seafood, there should be some seafood and some chicken in there as well. You can adapt this recipe and you can change the things like the fish and the chicken to vegetarian options if you wish to. So that's not a problem. If you are doing some chicken, like I'm going to use chicken today, then you can cut your vegetables and everything on the same board as you're using for the chicken, because it's all going into the same pan, so you don't have to worry about cross-contamination. So I'm going to do all the preparation on this red board. If you're doing vegetarian, then you use a green board for all your preparation. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare my onion. I'm going to do that how we usually do it. So I'm going to cut that in half. I'm then going to peel back the skin and just take that outer layer off to remove any bits that we don't want. Okay, and I'm using a red onion, but you can use a white onion if you wish. Any onion will do. I'm going to then just revisit some of those skills, so using your bridge and claw, so just taking that end off, using my bridge, tip of the knife, slicing down with the blade, not cutting all the way to the end. And I'm just going to dice these, then using my claw grip to then dice. Okay, I'm just going to use this little bit there, and then you can discard that bit, just so that's keeping it safe when you're doing that. I'm going to do the other half exactly the same. So just remove that outer layer skin, and then cutting down the opposite end of the root. So I'm cutting down, that's still attached and it's not falling apart, to make that more safe to do, and then using my claw grip to cut that across as a fine dice. Okay, then I'm going to slice my pepper. I'm going to cut that in half, and then I'm just going to remove the inside and any of the pith and all of the seeds. Then I'm going to slice that down using my claw grip, and then just turn those round, and I'm going to dice these. Just making sure your fingers are tucked behind and your thumbs out of the way so we don't have any accidents. Okay, there's my vegetables. Just going to finish off the pepper. You can use any coloured pepper, it doesn't matter. I'm just using an orange one here, just to give it a bit of colour. If you wanted to add a different colour, you could use a red or a green pepper. Just slicing that. Okay, so those are my vegetables there prepared. I'm just going to put those in a container so they're ready to put into my paella once I've prepared all my meat and my garlic. So there's my vegetables. I'm going to then chop up some garlic, top and tail it. If you top and tail it, it makes it a lot easier to just remove that skin then, and that should come away quite easily. If you've got a garlic crusher, you can crush your garlic. I'm going to just chop my garlic up like that and just make that into small pieces. The smaller you cut your garlic, then the more flavour you're going to get out of it. So then finish off with a bit of a more fine dice like that. Okay, then I'm going to put that to one side, so that's all ready to go into my paella. And then lastly, I've got some peas here ready to go in, and I've got my fish ready to go in at the end. And I'm just going to prepare my chicken. So just make sure you're careful with the chicken. Don't wash it because that will spread bacteria around the sink. So I don't want you washing your chicken at school. Take that bit off. And I'm just going to dice this chicken. Cut that in half. And I'm just going to make them into even sized pieces so they cook at the same time. There we go, and there's my chicken. So I've got all my prepared ingredients. I'm just going to get rid of this into the bin, and then all my ingredients is there. I'm also going to, before I start, I'm going to get my stock ready. So I prepared this earlier. You need 1 stock cube and you need 750 millilitres of water. This is 500 millilitres of water, so you'll need to pour this in and then with the kettle just refill it for another 250 to make that 750 mils. The first thing I'm going to do is turn on my, I haven't got a paella pan, so I'm just going to use a wok, which is fine, or a saucepan. And I'm just going to turn that to high heat. And I'm just going to warm up my pan first of all before I add the rest of my ingredients. I'm going to use today some paella rice. This rice absorbs the liquid, but you can use things, some other long grain rices if you want. I wouldn't use basmati, but other long grain, short grain rices such as abora rice, that would work just as well. Okay, but the paella rice is obviously the best rice to use for this for the best effect. Okay, I'm also going to use some turmeric and some paprika in this to give it the flavour. Smoked paprika is really good in paella and really gives it that traditional flavour, Spanish flavour. And this is a very traditional Spanish dish. If you go to Spain, you might see them having a big paella pan out on the beach and cooking up some paella ready for people when they come off the beach in the evenings. I'm going to first of all start with cooking my onions and my peppers so my pan is warm enough. And I'm going to add my chicken to this as well. Okay. I'm also going to add at this stage my 1 teaspoon of paprika. And again, if you want to use smoked paprika, that's fine. I'm going to use 1 spoon of turmeric. Now, traditionally, they use saffron to colour the rice. So I'm using turmeric in this recipe as an alternative, as saffron is quite expensive ingredient. So to reduce the cost, I'm just using some turmeric in here to give the rice the desired colour of that yellow colour. So we're just going to stir those for about 5 minutes and just cook the chicken and vegetables, making sure that your chicken turns white. And what you also want to do is just get that caramelisation of the onions and the peppers, which gives it that nice sweet flavour. You don't want to have your vegetables burning, so I am constantly stirring them so they are not burning. That's nearly ready. And then what I'm going to do now is add my garlic. Make sure that's cooked in. And then once that starts to cook, I'm going to add my stock. I'm using a vegetable stock cube, but you can use a chicken stock cube for this if you wish to, or any other stock cube that you have, that will be fine. We're going to put that on to boil, so I'm going to keep stirring that, and I'm going to cook that until it comes to a boil. And you can stir that while that's cooking to make sure that that's evenly cooked and not catching on the bottom. And that's at a high heat at the moment. So I'm going to leave that, let that boil up. That will take about 5 minutes for that to boil up to really cook those flavours out into the stock. And then I'm going to add my rice. It's nearly coming to the boil. And then I'm going to add my rice into here. So let's give it a couple more minutes. And as you can see, it's starting to boil on the top there. And then I'm going to put my rice. I'm going to try and spread my rice quite evenly in the pan, so we don't have to stir it. I'm just going to make sure that that is just spread evenly and make sure it's all in the water. I do need to add now another 250 millilitres of water to that. I didn't have a big enough jug. I'm just going to add that water. So traditionally with the paella, they don't stir it, they leave it to cook. So what happens is you do get a crispy bottom on that, and apparently that is a desired effect of a crispy bottom. So where with the risotto, I would tell you to stir it to make sure it doesn't catch on the bottom. With the paella, what you need to do is you do need to allow it to just cook, and you might get a bit of a crunchy bottom, but that is the Spanish love that bit. Apparently that's like the treat at the bottom, when it's a bit crunchy at the bottom. So you can leave that to boil, and as I said, don't stir it, and just leave that to bubble and boil away. Leave that for about 5 minutes to bubble and boil away, and then what we're going to do is we're going to reduce that heat and leave it to simmer away for 15 minutes. So I'm going to reduce that heat now. That's got to rolling boil. I'm going to reduce that. You might need to leave it a little bit longer than what I have there. You're going to reduce that down. I'm reducing mine down to a 5. You might need to reduce it down some more. And I'm just going to let that cook and cook away. And then once that has cooked, you will start to see that the paella rice starts to expand, and therefore it will absorb the liquid. Now, to stop too much starch from producing and making this really gloopy, that's why they prefer not to stir this. So we're not going to stir it, we're just going to let that boil